Hey, welcome to Day 66. My name is Kenny Conley. I am the next generation pastor at the Ridge Community Church in Blue Ridge, Georgia. And I am on day 66 of my 90-day challenge where I'm attempting to recruit 50 volunteers. Not just any volunteers, but weekly volunteers who serve in our kids' ministry. We are just about 4 days away from moving into a brand new kids space, and so that is what I'm working on. That's what I'm focused on. And so this week I'm talking about one of the biggest things that we're doing with our new move is we're moving into a large group, small group model, which we've never had a large group model. And so this last few months has been all about recruiting hosts and storytellers and tech volunteers. And so today I want to talk a little bit more about hosts and storytellers. How do you find them, and what's the deal with them, and how do you schedule them? And so, you can do whatever you want to do, but here's what I've had a lot of success with over the last decade. And I've switched this around some. And when I first got into this, I had really all my large group volunteers served on a once a month rotation, but they served at all 2 or 3 services, depending on what church I was at. And so I got them for the whole day, which meant they could get there about an hour early, and we could rehearse and practice and work on the transitions and then execute that service 2 times or 3 times. And it was perfect. The downside of that is that it becomes very difficult to build community because these people only serve together once a month. And then if they rotate, like if they're not available on that week, which that happens a lot of times, then we end up moving around. And so it could be like 6 months before they serve with the same people again. So the compromise there is to find your worship people, your host, your tech people, keep them on a weekly volunteer basis where they're same people every week at the 9:30 service. But then your storyteller, make that a monthly volunteer role, because there's a lot to memorize, there's a lot to learn, there's a lot to prepare for giving that message. So that's kind of the rotation that we have. I've got a couple oddities where I've got some worship leaders that are on the stage in the main service twice a month for both services, so they can't do every week. So they do the same schedule as there are for adults, but they do that in kids on the off weeks. So that's kind of cool. So I kind of got a mixed schedule, but I want to talk a little bit about in our elementary space, what are hosts and storytellers. So I have managed to find a host for each service. And one of the hosts at 9:30 is somewhat temporary. I asked him as a favor to host for a couple months as I find the long-term person, which I have somebody who I currently serves every other week with his fiance in preschool, but he was my co-host at VBS this last summer, and I want him to host in elementary. He would crush it. So I'm in the process of moving him over and putting him with this other leader that he can kind of be mentored. This guy that I've got doing it temporarily, he's done this for a lot of years. He's my boss's son. He's in his 20s, and he's great at this. He's so great at this. And for those host roles, you want them to be fun, full of energy. They can get the room energized. They're funny. They get the kids laughing, get the kids yelling, all those sorts of things. So I've got him at the 9:30 service. I've got 2 teenagers. One of them is just graduated from high school a year ago. The other one is a senior in high school this year. They're super fun. They're leaders in their peer groups, and they're goofy and they're fun, and so they're perfect. They capture the energy of the room. So so I essentially have 3 hosts, and they serve every week. I have several storytellers. I've got one woman who's a storyteller who is my boss's wife, and at a previous church she used to be a storyteller on a monthly basis. She's also an educator. She's been an educator for 25, 30 years. And I have myself as a storyteller, which I'm going to do it from time to time. I also have another woman who stepped up, who is one of my early childhood. She is my special needs coordinator. She helps us run our special needs program. She's very talented, and so she's offered to be a storyteller. So people are starting to come out of the woodwork that I didn't peg for being storytellers, and they've been great storytellers. I got my youth pastor who's going to storytell every now and again. So sometimes it's tricky finding storytellers, but they're in your church. They're people who can communicate. They're educators. Maybe they're people who do community theater, but they're teachers. There's communicators or speakers. So that's what it looks like. That's how I scheduled them. That's a little bit how I find them. And listen, I'm in a small rural town in North Georgia. And if I've got them here, you've got them where you are. You just have to kind of pick up every rock and look and see who they are and find them. Get creative. They're some of your teenagers. They're some of your teenage leaders. They're, like I said, check out your theater department at your local schools. Find out what teenagers are drama kids and go find them, okay? Host the storytellers. Host, same person every week. Build that energy, build that connection. Storytellers, typically once a month, serve multiple services. It's awesome.